Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Our first guest today now is someone who, don't be scared by the words, because nobody wants to hear about cremation. But actually, when you need to think about it, it's important to have a company that really knows what they're doing and to make it easier for you. So we're going to be talking to Mark Sunshine. Yes, that's really his name. I accused him of telling me that Sunshine Cremation Services was just a beautiful name, but it's not. It's his name. So, Mark, this cremation services that you are running and own, tell me about it.
Well, we're a full service. We have a sister company also called Cronish Funeral Services, and we're a full service, both funeral home and cremation services provider, headquartered in Boca Raton, and we serve the entire Tri-County area, meaning Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. We have a couple of things that are really kind of cool about our business. First, my partner Keith Cronish is widely recognized as the very best funeral director in the Southeast, hands down, bar none. He's been in the business 40 plus years, and it's a funny thing, but you can tell who's best by when priests and ministers and rabbis have family loss, who they turn to, and it's overwhelmingly my partner, Keith.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because many people years ago, if they were Jewish, didn't want to talk about cremation. How has that changed?
Cremation is, since the early 60s, I think, cremation has been an acceptable form of dealing with your loved one after they pass for Reform Jews. About 2.5, 3 years ago, the conservative rabbis decided that it was an acceptable form of taking care of your loved one for conservative Jews. Still, the most observant and Orthodox don't really go for cremation among the Jewish community.
So when someone would make that phone call to Sunshine Cremation Services, what are the questions that they ask?
It depends on whether it's pre-need, meaning before the person has passed and they're planning ahead, which we advise everybody to do, or it's at need, meaning somebody has passed or is expecting to pass. Usually, if it's at need, the questions that they ask are, I don't know what to do next, I'm uncomfortable, help me, and we explain the process to them. If it's pre-need, the questions really relate more to financial and what's going to happen to my money when I prepay, and is it in trust, and is it safe, and all that sort of thing.
And what comes to mind for me, there are a lot of older people here who haven't made any plans. And it's always amazing, as I think about it, what do they think? They're not going to die, or someone else is going to take care of it? Their kids?
Somebody else is going to take care of it, or it's a really scary topic for many people, most people. When you're talking about whether it's your death or the death of your closest loved one, you're talking about the most vulnerable time in somebody's life, either when they pass away or when their loved one passes away. And it's really scary, and people try and avoid just naturally topics that are scary and uncomfortable. They're hoping somebody else is going to take care of it, but they're too scared or intimidated to call somebody like us.
And the whole cremation business, when it's not just saying, okay, thank you very much, we'll take care of it. There are a lot of options. What are they? Well,
there are a whole host of options. You're correct about that. You could just have a cremation and, come home in an urn. You could have a full funeral service and then be cremated afterwards, including a wake and an open casket and church service and the whole 9 yards. So it's everything from full church service, memorial service after cremation, to just cremate and come home in an urn.
Right, come home in an urn. People who are listening now are saying, well, I'm interested, but I don't even know how to go about it. I don't know what you're going to ask me. I don't know what I have to pay. I don't know what I have to do. Why don't you make believe that I've just come into your facility and I say, okay, I'm interested in cremation. This is pre-need, because I think pre-need is a good idea. And then you don't labor under other people's wishes. You do what you want.
Right. So pre-need is a great idea for a couple of reasons. The first is you lock in the price today, and you don't have to worry about inflation. So, you have somebody come in who's in their early 70s, and they're not unlikely to live another 15, 20 years. You lock in the price today, and it's good for the rest of your life. You also are able to tell your loved ones what you want and how you want your end of life decisions, at least in connection with the cremation process and what kind of funeral service you want and things like that. You're able to give them instructions so your children or your loved ones or those that are left behind aren't forced to guess. And the cost is at our particular place. The cost is $12.95. Full cremation includes all the costs and fees and expenses.
Very inexpensive, from what I hear.
Yeah, it's real good, and we have a choice of 30 or 40 urns that people can pick from. That any other place are $300 or $400. I mean, we have this policy, and I think we're the only people in South Florida that have this policy, which is nobody goes home to their loved one in a cardboard box or a plastic box.
Oh boy, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's what happens, and I won't name the companies that do that.
It's everybody else does it. I have this belief that if I wouldn't want my wife or dad or mom or child or brother or sister coming home to me in a cardboard box or a plastic box, I'm not going to have anybody that works with us, any family we're taking care of, have the experience that I wouldn't want for myself. So nobody goes home in a plastic box or a cardboard box.
That's a
ever.
New one. That is a new one. I love that. That's probably something you should put under your title, Sunshine Cremation Services. Nobody goes home in a plastic or a box.
We've tried that. It doesn't necessarily resonate unless you explain it a little better.
It's kind of like that smoking. Now there's a smoking commercial that shows what a person. Now it looks like I can't even stand to look at it. It is so horrible, right?
Right.
I've never smoked, but it still sounds pretty horrible.
Right.
One thing for those of you listening, you're going to get to see Mark because he will be at our Boomer Expo that's coming up on Tuesday, the 23rd of this month. So, Mark, the phone number that people should call you, and that's the 561 number?
Yeah, it's 561-203-0490. And we're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year. And we're there not only to deal with immediate need, but sometimes people have questions. Sometimes we get calls from people that have been serviced by other funeral homes where the funeral home didn't help them as well as they could have get through the process of grieving or the process of whether it be cremation or funeral. We're there for everybody, regardless of whether or not you use us.
And your website is Sunshine Cremation.
Yes, sunshinecremation.com. That's right.
When you really think about it, it's a wonderful word to put before cremation. You know that. It's like blue skies. I would say blue skies cremation. Sunshine. I mean, that's happy.
It is a happy, it is a nice coincidence that my last name is Sunshine. People think for some odd reason it's because we're in the Sunshine State, as contrasted with it's really my name.
No, and I'm sure that you've had a lot of fun with that over the years because people wouldn't forget your last name.
No, they don't forget my last name, which sometimes is good and sometimes when I misbehave, not as great as we would hope.
So now let's get back to the whole point of cremation. You said to me something when we first were chatting that you do a lot more than just someone comes in and you help them with cremation. That you actually have, you're a lawyer, you're in a lot of other. You've been in other businesses, but you understand the human psyche. And so you try to help them. And tell me some of the things that you do. Well,
some of the things that we do include helping families make it through, if you will, their golden years without having their financial assets wiped out by long-term health care costs. It's cremation is obviously one of the businesses we're in. It's very interesting to talk about. But the largest risk that the vast majority of your listeners are facing is the financial destruction of their estate because of long-term health care costs. And statistically, among baby boomers, more than half of everybody, and I'm a baby boomer as well, more than half of my peers are going to end up in one form of long-term care or another, whether they like it or not, or whether they admit it or not, if only because of things like Alzheimer's and other neurological diseases. And what happens to many families is their long-term health care costs far exceed their financial wherewithal, and they need to augment their resources and to protect the resources that they have. And the obvious things are government programs, but government programs, to get into them, tend to wipe out the financial resources of the remaining spouse or the estate that you might want to give to your kids, or wipe out your estate before you pass away so that you can't afford supplemental health care. And supplemental health care means quality of life, quality of care, and longevity of life versus bare minimums. And we help families get through that. That's really
unusual. That's something that we need to discuss, because that's not clear cremation services.
Well, we're there to help. We're there to help families through a transition process, beginning when they're reaching or nearing end of life, through past end of life for the survivors, and we do everything we can to help those families negotiate that difficult time, and the individuals who are my peers negotiate that difficult time.
And you said something about when someone is cremated, they really can have a very nice funeral, a celebration of their life, and then what happens afterwards, you just take over, and then you don't have to just have a cremated body and then nobody knows what happened. That's a big problem. I've heard that before. Well, I don't want to be cremated. I want to have a real funeral.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We can, we often, literally a couple of times a week, will have what we call cremation funerals, where everything is exactly the same as if you were going to be buried, as if the deceased was going to be buried. But at the end of the funeral, instead of heading off to the cemetery, people go home, and then we take the loved one and obviously have them cremated, and then return the cremains to the family in one of the beautiful urns that we have.
Yeah, that's very unusual. So Sunshine Cremation, let's go to their website, sunshinecremation.com, and they have a wonderful website. I was very impressed with it, because a lot of companies, and I've been on many other companies, that they don't go to the extent that you do. So that's nice of you, because this is a time when people really do need help.
Oh, absolutely. I should mention, however, just from so I don't get into trouble from a regulatory perspective, when we do a cremation funeral, we actually use our sister company, which is a fully licensed funeral home, to do that. So it technically is being done by Cronish Funeral Services, as contrasted with Sunshine Cremation. The regulators are very big on me making that little disclaimer and disclosure.
Important. It's necessary. So let's just, I have a question. What if someone, though, doesn't live here? Can you handle these services in another location? So let's say that someone comes into your service, they said, well, I really live in New York. Would you still be able to do it, or you have an affiliation there?
We can recommend people in New York, but we're really tri-county in Florida, meaning Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. We're very effective throughout the three counties, but once we get outside of those three counties, we're not so effective. So, for example, if somebody lives in Orlando, we're not effective in Orlando. There are other companies up in Orlando that we would recommend.
So let's say someone is cremated here, and their kids want to take them up to New York. What are they going to be able to do?
Take them up to New York.
I was told that they can't put it on the plane with them. There was something very strange about that. Do you know anything about that?
No, you can put it on the plane. We can ship the cremains. There's certain paperwork we give to people, but within the U.S., there's no problem. Traveling internationally to most countries, there's no problem. Certain companies, like Italy, for example, and I don't know exactly why, it's a lot of paperwork, but we can make it happen. One of the other things that is kind of interesting, because you talked about people traveling around, there are individuals that, for example, will be very active, seniors in their 60s or 70s, and go on cruises or travel to Europe or go wherever. And the question is, what happens if they pass away outside of the immediate area? And the answer is we offer a form of travel insurance through an insurance company that guarantees and takes care of bringing the deceased back to us. It's a one-time premium. It's, I think, $495. It lasts for your whole lifetime, and it's one of the biggest bargains I've ever seen.
So you really have a lot of extras, bells and whistles if someone wants it.
But one thing which I'd like to, a lot of people will say to us, well, we bought travel insurance. We're going on a cruise, and we bought travel insurance through the cruise line. And the travel insurance through the cruise lines are great. And I love cruises. But if you pass away on a cruise ship, the cruise ship is putting you ashore most likely at the next port. Okay. And the travel insurance will cover the cost of getting you home. But say you're on Royal Caribbean and you decide you pass away just before you hit the island in Haiti, their little special island in Haiti. You're going to get put ashore in Haiti, and we don't know how to get anybody out of Haiti.
Okay.
That travel insurance company is expert at that.
Okay, well, we're going to have you on again because you are filled with a lot of good information. Everyone go to sunshinecremation.com and be sure to come to the expo and say hello to Mark. I'm sure Mark will be there and your associate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.